Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, look what has just arrived. Another 666. Found this on eBay, of course, and this one was majorly trashed. But it is complete. It has the front truck, the rear truck, and its original tender. You can see that all of them are still covered with rust. So all I've done so far is the repairs to get the engine running. And I replaced the tilt coupler on the tender with a tab and slot. Now, the engine is not terrible. You can see it's been stored really badly. Lots and lots of rust on it. The major problem was the contactor was completely missing. And the contactor plate was completely broken off. You can see the break there. So what I did was just use a small piece of steel and epoxied it in place to replace the front of that contactor plate. And that repaired that. The light bulb for the headlight was broken off in the socket and was totally disconnected from the motor. So I repaired that and been running it on the bench. But getting ready to do a grand experiment. This is a smoker. I have no idea if it smokes. I have not tested it yet. So I'm going to put it on the rail. We're going to run it around. The E-unit works. So now it's just a matter of seeing if the smoke generator works. So let me turn the power on. We'll run this just for a second so you can see that it does run backwards and forwards with its original tender. Anyway, I got this for 10 bucks. I got here about 2 hours ago. Not in great condition, as you see, but it is running. And haven't done anything to it as far as cleaning it up, except to put a bit of oil on the paint to bring that back to life. And a really cursory cleaning of the tender itself. Still covered in rust. And it's been sitting for years and years and years and years. But it runs surprisingly well. I ran it for about 20 minutes on the bench after I got the contactor installed. And like I said, I got the headlight working, replaced the broken coupler on the tender. Like I said, it was a tilt, and I replaced it with a tab and slot. It's just easier to use, and you can use it on a lot more things. So, get this thing on the rail. All right, now, the grand experiment. I have a small bottle of mineral oil, plain old mineral oil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops of mineral oil. Let that set for a second. I have no idea if the smoker works. I wanted to actually save the test for the video. But like I said, as I always stress, don't overlook the junk. Just because it's junk when you get it doesn't mean it's going to be junk when you're finished with it. And less than 2 hours work, and this engine is up and running. And it's complete. It has a working headlight, front truck, and the rear truck, double reduction motor, of course, and the original tender. Now, I can get this cleaned up, and this is actually going to be a nice engine when it's finished. So, the grand experiment. Let's see if it will smoke. So let's take it around and see what happens. Pulling 22 cars. Nothing yet. It's smoking. Wow, that's great. It's actually smoking rather well. So 10 bucks and about 2 hours work. And this engine is up and running, and it's running really well, and it has the original tender, and it's smoking. Really hard to beat that. So currently running, this is about 60% power right now. Well, it's running surprisingly well. This engine had been sitting for years and years and years. And one nice thing about those contactors is once they're broken, this engine is never going to run again. So the day they broke the contactor was the last day this engine ran. And I have no idea when that was. 20 years ago, hard to say. A lot of rust on it, especially on the tender. And like I said, the rear coupler was snapped right off. So whenever I come across these things, I just take the rivet out, replace it with a screw, and replace the tilt coupler with a tab and slot. It just makes it so much easier to use. I still have to rebend this to get it to fit correctly, but it's on there, and the engine is up and running. So as I always stress, don't overlook the junk. I was the only bidder on this engine. $10, and I think it scares most people away when they see the contactor is missing. And it's not that difficult to repair these things. And as you saw, I didn't have to replace that contactor plate. I simply just epoxied a piece of metal in place to replace the front part of it that was broken off to hold the main contactor. But it's up and running, forwards and backwards. And it's smoking. That's really gratifying to see this thing running so well. Definitely smoking. So basically all I had to do was repair the contactor, repair the light, solder it back into position again, replace the coupler on the tender, and like I said, 2 hours, something like that, and this old engine is up and running, and it's running really, really well. It's running, it's smoking, it has its original tender, and currently pulling 22 Marx cars. So, as I always stress, I know you're probably tired of hearing it, don't overlook the junk. You can find some really nice stuff on eBay. It may not be nice when you get it, but it's going to be nice when you're finished with it. And a really, really simple repair. And I had this running, like I said, about 2 hours or so, something like that. And a bit more work, get it really cleaned up, get this rust off these wheels, and you have a really nice smoking 666 that's capable of pulling 20 plus cars for $10. As I said, it's really, really difficult to beat that. Now, the engine isn't in terrible condition at all. There's no damage to it. It's just been stored badly. And, of course, once you get this rust on this steel, the value just plummets. And, of course, it didn't run when it got here, and it hadn't run in who knows how long. And I made one bid on it, and like I said, I was the only bidder. So when you come across things like this that are physically broken, don't let it be intimidating. It's really easy to fix this stuff, and you don't have to have the original part to fix it with. You can usually cobble something together to get it running. And then once you gain some experience doing this, it becomes really, really fast to be able to take one of these things out of the box that hasn't run in years and years and years. A few drops of oil, do a couple of quick repairs, get it cleaned up, and this engine is running absolutely perfectly. Not only is it running, but it's also smoking. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. As I always stress, don't overlook the junk. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.